Hey guys, and welcome to Nintenduary, a month where we review a different Nintendo 64 game every day for the entire month. Today we're looking at a game that I always thought was a bit overlooked and underrated. In this episode we're gonna take a look at Doom 64. So let's get right into it. Doom is often considered to be the grandfather of the FPS genre of video games, as the original Doom was such a huge hit. The game ended up being so popular that it was actually re-released 5 different times before we saw a Doom game that saw a bigger overhaul. But with Doom being re-released so many times, there was actually a huge demand for a completely new Doom game. So Doom 64 was developed by Midway with oversight from ID Software. But this game actually started out as a game called The Absolution before being renamed to Doom 64 for better brand recognition. Taking place after the events of Final Doom, players are back in another fast-paced slayer from hell, and Doom 64 does a pretty good job at taking the classic formula that made the game so popular and enhance it. For being a Doom game, this game saw some pretty big enhancements. At the core of this game, it's still classic Doom, the one that everyone knows and loves. But with the new technology, the fast-paced movement definitely feels a lot better on the N64, as the level design is rendered in 3D, making movement feel more fluid and less panelly. The level design itself is really good here, and they stay true to the classic style of gameplay Doom fans can expect. But with the levels being rendered in 3D, the game is a lot easier to navigate. However, this game doesn't come without its flaws. Doom 64 still uses a pretty dated engine, which means weapons and enemies are still rendered as sprites, which was common for games like Mario Kart 64, but with other FPS games like GoldenEye, which came out just months after Doom, it's pretty jarring to see an FPS with such basic looking graphics. The game was also criticized for players not being able to jump, crouch or look up and down. But I don't think that's a way you can criticize a Doom game. I think it doesn't take away anything from the gameplay. And yes, it's not what other FPS did at the time, but I feel like Doom had its unique style of gameplay. Unfortunately, there were still cartridge limitations on this game, as not all the demons present in other iterations of the game made it into this version. But we got some demons that were cut out of the PlayStation version that would make their debut on Doom 64. So at least there was a nice little extra that you got for playing on the N64. I really do appreciate the faster paced style of gameplay though. Being able to quickly move around corners is great, and you still feel like a badass as you kill all the demons. And I gotta give a lot of credit to the musical soundtrack that keeps the game constantly moving and letting players feel pumped at the same time. And sometimes it gets a little spooky too. And I think the fast-paced style of gameplay also had a major influence on later releases of Doom, especially the more recent Doom game that came out in 2016. You can tell ID Software took a lot of inspiration from this version of Doom, and they made it a point to focus more on atmosphere and the fluid gameplay experience. And I think if they would have done that with Wolfenstein 2, the game would have been a lot better. I didn't think Wolfenstein 2 was that bad of a game, just the gameplay felt repetitive after a while. That's why I personally think Doom 2016 is a more fun experience than Wolfenstein 2. Let's get back to Doom 64 though. Doom 64 was supposed to be a launch title for the Nintendo 64 in America. But near the deadline, ID Software expressed dissatisfaction with many of the level designs, so Midway postponed the game until April 1997. Also, there were some rumors going around about Doom 64 being censored by the wish of Nintendo. This was due to the fact that Nintendo removed the ability to run over animals from the Nintendo 64 version of Cruisin' USA, but developer Midway themselves said Nintendo had not voiced any concerns about the game's violent content. They pointed out that Cruisin' USA was perceived by the public more as a family game than anything else, while the Doom series was always targeted towards a mature audience. And you know how I said that the game the developers were working on was originally called Absolution? The same team that made Doom 64 was actually working on a potential sequel titled Doom Absolution, designed for only 2-player deathmatches. But it was later scrapped because they didn't want to make another game with the dated Doom engine. Despite its flaws, this game is a pretty solid experience, and you probably will have a great time playing it. If you plan on going on a Doom marathon, consider picking up this one for a fun night of demon blasting. You won't be disappointed. Well, that's it for today's video. Let us know in the comments down below what's your favorite Doom game of all time. Don't forget to subscribe to Rocket Sloth, turn on notifications and come back tomorrow for more Nintenduary episodes. We are uploading them every day and we still got more than 10 days to go. Tomorrow Elijah's gonna take a look at 2 games. He's gonna take a look at Pokemon Stadium and Pokemon Stadium 2. So you're gonna like it if you're a Pokemon fan. Until then, see you guys next time.